Welcome to the School Without Suffering podcast. I'm your host, Laura Fragamini, founder and principal of School Without Suffering. This season, I'm talking with community members who have firsthand experiences of suffering in school, sharing their perspectives as students, teachers, and parents. My hope is that these conversations show each of us that we are not alone and inspire us to envision and enact change for your individual family and for learners everywhere. Let's dive in. My guest today is Avery Willdridge. Avery, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and talk about kind of all this stuff.
Yes. Okay, so before we jump into it, can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Well, I am Avery, and that is also my podcast. I am Avery. And I talk about on my podcast just about mental health and everything that has to do with it, which is practically everything in life, honestly. And I love sharing my story to help others. I volunteer with American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, and that's what I'm looking into going into for a career.
That's amazing. And Avery, how old are you?
I'm 16.
16 and already diving headfirst into mental health, what you know is important, what you think you want to do for your career in the field. That's incredible. And I think very, unfortunately, rare
Very.
for people your age to have that level of awareness of how important mental health is.
Oh, yes. It's again like me living in that age too, seeing my peers and stuff, it really is disappointing. But that's my goal in life. And actually like just right now in my age is to help spread awareness and help open the eyes of those people who don't get it or just are not very like they don't have a mind open to it. They're very closed off in what they think
Yeah.
is what it is, and it's not. There's so many broad ideas.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So we got connected in a Facebook group where I put out a call for folks who have had experiences suffering in school, however you define it, and folks who would like to share that story. And you raised your hand.
I sure
So
did.
you sure did. So I want to give you the chance to tell that story first
Yeah,
and foremost.
sounds good. I mean, I can just, for an overview right now, I've suffered from bullying, school avoidance and refusal. I'm neurodivergent, disordered anxiety, and I do have something called POTS and EDS. So EDS is Ehlers-Danlos. It's practically I'm too flexible that it makes me sick, and POTS is my heart rate declines very quickly, no matter what I'm doing. So I mean, I think the neurodivergency came first in my life, in my school life. I think I got diagnosed with ADHD at age 5 or 6, and I got put right on medication. At that time, I was introduced. I went to a bilingual school, and unfortunately, at first grade, I decided I couldn't do it. I had to switch out because my brain couldn't process it, learning and trying a new language. And I think that's what started me to being in a big group of girls friends. And ugh, I don't say that it's a bad thing for everyone, but me personally, that ended up not being good. It made me very anxious, self-conscious, just a lot of reasons, left out, even though if I wasn't being left out. And that started disordered anxiety started coming into the picture. As I switched schools, I didn't know how to read English. I had to learn how to read English. I had to connect with all these new people. And I think I suffered my papa died at around age 6 as well. And that was the start of the anxiety. And it was bad. It was all these things in my mind, like what if this happens? What if that? What if that? And it ended up school refusal ended up starting to happen because I couldn't deal with it. Like, I just had this pit in my stomach all the time, or a stomach ache. It was a stomach ache, and that was mostly what I suffered from. My mom, I have a stomach ache. Dad, I have a stomach ache. Nurse, I want to go home. I have a stomach ache. And we found that out to be anxiety. And COVID hit in seventh grade. COVID. I was in the middle of seventh grade when that happened. I lost my friends. I got diagnosed with depression in eighth grade, which that led to more school refusal. Of course, there was still COVID. There was still a bit COVID going on, but that was, as my refusal was still very there. Um, I lost them. I was made fun of for being an attention seeker because I was open about my mental health. And so I've always been open about it because I'm just that person. I've always been told I have my heart on my sleeve and I'm an old soul. Um, and I didn't know how to deal with that, being told that and like no one believing me. And that again, it caused way more school refusal. Let me fast forward a bit to more of high school. So I go to a trade school, which has almost close to 1,000 people. So compared to the regular town high school that has 5,000 kids, I am up to almost close to 1,000 kids in my school. So I do trade. That's helped so much. I love doing it. I love not doing school, like academic, all year long. And I think for ADHD like me, I need it.
One thing I want to say is
Mhm.
that you are so vibrant and you're sitting here and you're smiling and you're like articulating your story beautifully. You somebody who's just watching this is probably not looking at you and thinking, "Oh yeah, that's an anxious and depressed kid."
Yes. Thank you so much. That actually makes me so happy to hear. That's what I try to do on my day-to-day basis. Even if I'm having a bad day, I try to keep a smile on. It's actually one of something I do in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. I don't want to go into the explaining, but if someone wants to look it up or if you know, I work on changing my thoughts and it's something, it's called a half smile. And even if you're not feeling good, it's a half smile and it tricks your body into thinking you're okay. I mean, today I'm having an awesome day. I mean, I've been doing good, but there are some days where like I'm still smiling and people don't see me as you don't have depression. You're always smiling, you're always laughing. I'm like, have buddy, come see me when I'm at my home.
Yeah, I think it's really important to call that out to say like you don't always know when somebody
Hmm.
is anxious or depressed or struggling with
Hmm.
their mental health. People can look
Yes.
all sorts of ways. And like you even said
Hmm.
earlier, your depression wasn't of the type that was keeping you from getting out of bed or
Yes.
showering or doing a lot of the things that maybe people tend to think of
Or other people struggle with that
or
too.
other people struggle with. Yes.
Hmm.
So I want to bring this up because the folks who are listening tend to be a lot of parents.
Yeah.
Um, and it can be it can sometimes be hard to understand or like to see your child, you maybe think like,
Yep.
I'm seeing your grades aren't great and I
Yep.
don't know what's going on. So it must be you're just not motivated or you just don't
Yeah. Or
care.
you're lazy, or
Yeah,
you don't have a future in mind for you.
right, exactly. Um,
Hmm.
and so we always try to bring that into the conversation of
Yeah.
there is always more going on under the surface than we can see in anybody. So when
Yeah.
so all of this started at 5 or 6 years old, and really
Hmm.
it sounds like it happened in your first grade classroom at the bilingual school and then
Hmm.
ramped up when you changed schools.
Yes.
I know you were very young,
Hmm.
but do you know the sorts of things your mom was seeing from you and your dad
Um,
seeing from you when you were
yes.
a child?
So my mom is actually a special educator. So she actually works in this field of working with students who go through this stuff and have, these struggles and these educational struggles. Just I don't know how to explain it, but all these struggles. But I think she noticed just again like how downhearted I was, how hard it was for me to do certain things, and how I viewed myself, honestly. And I think from there, it's also easier for her because not it doesn't make it easier, but she knows more of the signs being a special educator.
Mhm.
So I think that's what helped her. And I know not all parents have that view into it, and they have nowhere to start. But I think she noticed that, and she looked into it more from what she knew.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about this, so that those who don't have a special
Yeah.
education background, you can get some insight into
Oh, yes.
what to see, what to look for. So, you talked about you got a 504 plan.
Yes.
Can you explain what a 504 plan is and what yours did for you?
Yes. So the 504 plan is practically a plan that helps you in school. And for me personally, that was just tiny little things that could make learning in my school life way better. For example, any teacher could give these to their students, more examples and more like a piece of paper that showed more examples or more explaining. But for me personally, I was handed that no matter what. I was handed, here's some examples. If you need some help, feel free. Like, I met with certain teachers to help and talk about it. And because you have a 504 and IEP plan does not mean you're stupid or you're sped, as people like to say. It just means you need a little more help. Your brain is a little different, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong, but you learn differently.
Once you got your 504, did
Mhm.
that help you?
Oh,
Did you feel differently in school?
yes, I felt like I had more support, and that some teachers could finally understand what was happening, because I felt like some teachers just didn't understand it and didn't understand why I was struggling, and it made me feel really, again, insecure, like, "Why am I so different from these other kids?" But I think it majorly helped me, like, I think it was a whole new world, even if it was small changes here and there.
Yeah, so small changes that the teachers were doing led to you feeling more secure, more safe, more
Mhm.
supported, and
Yes.
that is what kind of let you have like you said, it felt like a whole new world, even though maybe
Mhm.
it wasn't a whole new world. You were
Yeah.
in the same
Yeah.
classroom, you had the same teacher, they were
The
doing
same peers,
the
yes.
same peers, you were doing the same work, you just got,
Mhm.
a little bit more, examples on a piece of paper. And
Yes.
like you said, that is something that can be done for anybody. When I was in my teacher training, I remember learning for the first time about accommodations,
Yes.
as we call these things, and thinking to
Mhm.
myself, well, why wouldn't I just do this for everybody?
Yes,
Just
that's why
make
I said
things
that because the teachers, as much they will give examples to anyone who asks, but for me personally, I was already handed it without asking,
right.
and shown it without needing to ask. Because that's another thing that I think a lot of kids struggle with is the asking for help, and asking for more support at that young age.
Especially, yeah, at that young age, and especially if you're already feeling insecure and already feeling very
Yeah,
anxious,
hard
that's a really big ask and
jump. Yeah.
probably unreasonable, to say
In your mind,
in your
yeah.
yeah, to say, "Well, just ask for help."
It's
That's
not
something you have
simple.
access
It's
to.
not that simple.
Right. Yeah, and so there are ways, like you said, that you don't have to ask for help. That can be laid out.
Mhm.
These are the things that Avery needs, that, child ABC needs. They're gonna get
Mhm.
them right away without having to ask.
Yeah. And yes, and it's illegal. The teacher legally has to follow that. And there could be consequences if they don't. But I think again for like I don't want to say normal parent, but for a parent who doesn't have the eyes into a special ed, it's hard to also ask for help.
Yeah.
Also to ask yourself and your child for help because you also don't want to be seen. It doesn't mean you're a bad parent. You just also don't want to get like from other parents, you don't want it to look bad. And again, my mom had to look into it. She knew exactly what to ask for. She knew exactly what I needed, what to ask for, and the points. She still does when we do my IEP meetings, and I love that. Like I'm very lucky to have that. But it doesn't mean she's a better parent than you being a parent. It just means that it was better noticed at a younger age.
She had the information. She
Yes.
was professionally trained to have the information.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes
Oh yes.
so, okay, so then in elementary school, you had your 504. When did you move on to an IEP?
I think in 8th grade after I don't even know, maybe like 7th or 8th grade, when
Around
it
the time of COVID lockdown?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm. When the depression I've always had depression symptoms in the start of 6th grade, especially with the house fire, but I think after I said something that was very suicidal, it was like a big blare warning sign that I needed more help. Because the school, it was school, the main school, that was the main issue. School, going to school, interacting with my peers who saw me in a different light. And I'm seen as loud and annoying and from other people. I don't see myself as that. I think I'm awesome. But other people see me as loud, annoying. I talk too much, but I think I just have so many ideas in my brain that I just want to go and I can see as it's annoying, but like that was my struggle is people just saw me in a different light and people didn't like me. And that's why I needed more things to come into helping me. And I don't think it wasn't that big of a jump from the 504 to the IEP, but again, the 504 to the IEP gave me more accommodations
Yeah.
than I already had. Again, and that made a big difference, especially going into high school.
Yes. And so what did you gain from your IEP that you didn't have on your 504 that you maybe found to be the most supportive?
Yes. I think in 8th grade there wasn't any really change from the 504 to the IEP, but jumping into high school, the IEP was way better than the 504 jumping into high school. In high school, I do get a something called learning strategies. And most freshmen, it depends what school you go to. Since I go to a trade school, you do not get a free period. That's not in your regular academic schedule. So for me, this is like a free period. And I am in a classroom with a teacher who has a special education background, who is a special educator. And I'm in this classroom with other kids who suffer from all these things and have IEPs, and it's a class to get your work done and get help. And that was the major thing is really good for me still. I love it. It's awesome. And I find myself not having work to do because I get to do this and it helps the stress. And that was the major jump, I think. But I just think that again, there was just more things. Like for example, the 504, I just got more examples. Now this, I get more examples and more discussions and more they help more. I don't know how to explain it, but like there's just more. They do their regular classroom, they teach what you're supposed to do, but then they come to me if and now since I'm older, they will not really they include more stuff, but they will not do more unless I'm like, "Hey,
Mm.
can you help me?" And I think I'm better at doing that now. That was a struggle in like freshman year. I would not ask for help. But they will they will answer more of my questions than a regular student. So just more
So
of deep dive into
yeah.
it.
So you're getting the one-on-one support that you need, the check-ins that you need, and
Mhm.
it's been noticed by your educators that you are maturing, you are getting to a place where you can ask for help more. And so they
Yeah.
are now giving you that responsibility and giving you that opportunity to practice that skill, which is, of
Yes.
course, an important skill.
Oh, yes,
Um,
especially even going into adult life.
so I want to take this opportunity to address something you said earlier, which is that you were bullied partially because um, the people around you were seeing the things you were talking about, the things you were doing as attention seeking.
Oh, yes.
Why do you think that perception of somebody seeking attention elicits that response?
Kids just didn't know, like, they don't know what happens and what this is and what that is. All they know is that maybe their parents or they were taught that this stuff has to be silenced, and this stuff is not something you talk about. And that's the stigma. That's the stigma coming in. And I'm not saying that person's a bad person for doing that. I mean, once it gets to a certain point of bullying and stuff, it's not okay. But I can see where some people come from because they were taught that this is not something you talk about. This is not something that's okay to talk about. And because I talked about it, I was looking for attention.
You know, I hear in your words like compassion for your bullies,
Yeah.
an understanding of like you were told this is bad, and so you
Hmm.
reacted in a way that was bad.
Yes.
I also heard you say that sometimes people bully for attention.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that I mean, and you listed a whole bunch of other behaviors
Yeah.
that people can do for attention. And there's something about kids needing attention, people needing attention. We in fact do need attention.
Mm-hmm.
We are social beings. We need love. We need to feel supported. We need to feel supported in the ways that not just
We
are
need,
convenient for other people, but that feel like they are actually helping us.
yes.
And culturally, we have gotten to a place where somehow that's not okay. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and that's deeply ingrained in most, if not all of
Yeah.
us that are at least in American society. I won't speak for
Yeah.
the whole world, but that's
Yeah.
just something that I think I see, I think you see it, I think a lot of people see it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so normal. It's such a normal response, even for like when a child is in class and the teacher might say, "Oh, they're doing that for attention," or
Mm-hmm.
even a parent might say, "Oh, they're doing that for attention," and
Yeah.
leave
But
it
you
at
got to look
that.
deeper. You got to look deeper into why they're doing that for attention.
Exactly, because we leave it at that, and we have this message in our heads that we're kind of programmed with, that like, oh, then that means it's superficial, and that
Yeah.
means it's not real, and they just
Mm-hmm.
want attention. And I don't think that we think deeper about what does
Yeah.
that mean that they are looking for
Exactly.
attention.
Yes.
And now you're both working to help people who have gotten to
Yep.
a place of feeling like they maybe don't even want to be here anymore because
Mm-hmm.
of the way that they feel in the world.
Yep.
And I know the number of teenagers that feel this way is going up and up and up. It's in the news, it's
Oh yes.
undeniable. And you're telling me that your school does not have any support for it,
Nope.
and your school is not alone in not having any support.
Yeah.
So if you're not able to get the support you need, or were not able to get the support you need
Yes.
when you needed it from school,
Mm-hmm.
is that what led you to refusing to go?
Yes. I felt I felt as if I was not being seen and that my problems were not important. Of course, that doesn't speak for my parents. I love them. I'm very lucky for how they are and how I get support from them. But I mean, you're in school most of your life, not most of your life, but for depending if you go to college, for like 18 to 25 years of your life, you're in school and every single day for 6 hours a day. And I think in those first years of life, that's you're at school more than you're at your home. So like as much as I was getting support at home, school was the main problem. And that I didn't want to go to school because I wasn't getting supported there, but I knew my home was my safe place and I knew I'd get support at home.
Mm-hmm. For anyone who's listening, any parents who are listening who have a child that is refusing to go to school, can
Hmm.
you, um, not that one child is the same as another, just like
Yeah.
adult is the same as another, but just
Yeah.
maybe share a little of what your thoughts were and what your
Hmm.
feelings were during your times of school refusal, just to help
Hmm.
like shed some light
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
get gears turning.
Yeah, of course. I think I can't remember the youngest ages of how I felt. I didn't, it wasn't really seen as anxiety at that point because I wasn't diagnosed. But I think, I don't know, they saw it as anxiety. I think I didn't realize it. But I think I was just so, there was this just pit in my stomach, like that I didn't want to be at school because this happened or someone looked at me a certain way or said this. And I'm again, like you said, I'm not speaking for all parents, but I think a lot of parents don't understand. Some of them don't understand how it feels. And again, like it's been a long time where mental health's been in the picture, and even years ago, it was way worse than what we're at now. Like the silence and stuff. So again, lots of parents were raised differently and seen of that, and that's how they raise their kids. I'm not saying that's wrong. You raise your kids however you want, but when it gets to a certain point where they don't know anything and they need help and you don't know what to do, that shows that like it doesn't mean you're a bad parent, but you can become a better parent. And if you see these signs in your kids, I think it's also you need to go to, it's illegally you have to go to school. And I think um as much as you want your kid to be like, you want to be like, you have to go to school, like this is important, you kind of do have to look at the whole picture into why your kid might be feeling this way. Even thinking about what you could be doing wrong. Again, as I say so many times, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, but looking into that, maybe into that, and thinking, what could I be doing wrong? What what have they brought up as a flag that maybe I didn't see? Like, what could be going on? And looking at the whole picture as to they just don't as not and not seeing it as they're being lazy and they just don't want to go to school and do work, but seeing it as like what could be the problem, what could be causing this, and supporting your child in this doesn't supporting your child doesn't mean letting them stay out of school, but letting them know that they have support and that they can talk to you, and you helping them have a better school life and maybe home life if that's even needed.
Yeah. So when you were, and we can think about even like most recently, like
Yeah.
um, were there days that you were expressing to your parents, I'm not going to school, and you were allowed to stay home, and versus days where you were expressing to your parents, I'm not going to school, and they in fact said, yes, you are?
hmm So I can verse that with both parents. My dad, he's a teddy bear, but the way he was raised was way different from the way my mom was raised. He's more the guy, you're going to school, like you have to go to school. My mom's more of the, she's a special educator, like what's wrong, like why don't you want to? And again, it's not like she totally lets me stay home all the time, but it's like what can I do, and what makes better sense, you staying home or going to school, what's works for your mental health. My dad, again, I love him, he's a big teddy bear, but the way he was raised is still implanted in him. Doesn't mean he's a bad dad or is not good at all this stuff, but it's hard for him to see that in a different light and understand it. So I think it got to the point where I was crying my eyes out. Like with this current 42 absences last school year, I think it was to the point where like I didn't feel safe going to school because I felt that if something happened, I wouldn't be supported.
Are you considering a different educational environment for your child? School Without Suffering's virtual school serves students from elementary through high school, offering developmentally appropriate, comprehensive curriculum that aligns with academic standards while nurturing individual passions and strengths. During each step of their academic journey, we help students master their mindset and their lessons, cultivate compassion for themselves and others, develop their values, and acquire the skills they need to thrive. Our expert teachers employ innovative teaching methods and technology to create engaging and interactive learning experiences for every student. Enrollment in the School Without Suffering virtual school is month to month, allowing for maximum flexibility in meeting your child's unique needs. And with tuition in line with the national average for private schools and a pay-what-you-can option for those who need it, this life-changing educational opportunity is within reach for your family. Download your free parent guide at www.schoolwithoutsuffering.com/guide. That's www.schoolwithoutsuffering.com/guide. How are we now in 11th grade? How safe are we feeling there now?
Good. I have one absence, and that was because with all my issues with my POTS and my EDS disease, it's hard, and I've been pushing through each day. It's only been 3 weeks, but I love it. I think this week was a really good week. The week before was too, and the first week of school was really good. And I hope it goes good. It keeps going good from there. There will be some bad times. I know it. You can't just assume. But for now, I do not have the thought in my brain that I'm going to get up to 42 absences again.
I mean, congratulations. 3 weeks
Thank
in
you.
school, one absence. You have multiple chronic diseases.
Yes.
That's very, I think it's really commendable. And I'm really curious. Clearly, if you're going to school every day,
Yes.
you feel safe there.
I just think I'm safe within myself and I know what to do. Um, if something ever occurred, and I just feel like I keep to myself. I don't care that I don't have all these friends. In the end, I'm going to be leaving high school and it's a whole new world from there. So I think I still talk to people and stuff, but I kind of keep to myself more. Doesn't mean I'm less quiet and stuff, but I just, I don't know. I know I'm okay.
I think you have maybe set firmer boundaries. So you can go to school and you can interact with the people there, but you're aware of what you can rely on them for and what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And also you're in a place where they can say what they're going to say to you, and you can listen to what you want to, and you can leave what doesn't serve
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yes.
That is
And I think, go ahead.
that's a really hard thing for people to learn how to do.
Yes, and thank you. Again, as I like to say, like my experience is not as the same as others, and as I like to say in my podcast too, that I always say that like my experience, I'm not putting it as other people have to follow it and stuff. But I think I was not okay with myself for so long. It can take way into your adult life to end up being okay. But I think again, it's different for everyone. But I'm just really happy with what I'm at.
So when you are a teacher and you have your own classroom and you are talking to kids, even these little kids, early childhood,
Hmm.
3, 2 years old, 4 years old,
Yeah,
what are you going to want to express to them?
that no matter what, and it's hard to like change the words into like kid kid wise. You know, it's just a really hard topic that no matter what, they are loved, they are worth it, they have a purpose in life, and that they shine brightly no matter what they do. And that doesn't matter what other people think. That's my main thing.
Avery, tell us again the name of your podcast
I am Avery.
and where
Or
can people listen to it?
you can look it on Spotify for podcasters, regular Spotify, and YouTube.
Is there anything that you haven't gotten to say in our hour together that you want to leave listeners with?
Um, that it doesn't matter what you suffer with, even as if you're as a parent too. It doesn't matter what is happening. That you deserve the support and you deserve everything good that life has to give you. And that you deserve to be awesome. You deserve to be okay with yourself. You deserve everything. Like I said, you deserve the need to get support, and that doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't make you a bad person. Yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Incredible. Thank you, Avery, so much for being
Of
here.
course. Thank you for having me. This is an awesome experience.
You can find the links to Avery's podcast in the show notes for this episode. Next up is my conversation with Daryl W. Thomas. Daryl, or Coach D, is a former at-risk student turned U.S. Marine, loving husband, and committed father of 5. Hear a story about how things can turn out for the best, and learn about how Daryl is helping minoritized students win in the face of adversity. We'll see you in the next episode.